Welcome back, our lovely friends. It'd be kind of hilarious if you're our mortal enemies and you've just logged in to hate us. You are welcome too. I am Zoe Coyle, and this is
Polly McGee, lover of trolls and haters.
Just when you said trolls, I literally thought of the little dudes under bridges.
I can't think of trolls without thinking of like those dudes with the hair, the fluoro hair.
Yeah, it's true. So we are Pilot Light, and we are the co-pilots of Pilot Light, and we've been doing these videos for the last couple of weeks. We hope you've been on board with us before. We have talked about shame and empathy and vulnerability and fear and anger, and we've talked about language a lot. We had a whole section on language, particularly words that are potentially a little triggering, like the word triggering. All right. Have I missed anything out there that we've discussed in our previous
They're great things. And for those of you who are podcasting with us, you'll just be used to the dulcet tones of our voice.
It's true. And so what this is Polly and I have been facilitating together and apart for many, many years. And what we're seeing is a recurrence of primary questions and primary themes. And so what we thought we'd do, and forgive us if you've heard this, but this is for the newbies, is we're going to collate some of those and explore those themes, unpack them with you today and with each other, in hope that they can be of service to you and that they're as interesting to you as they are to us. And so today we are going to talk about boundaries. And I
peals of laughter.
Oh yeah. Such deep joy. Let's all get a big glass of whiskey. So boundaries, I said in another one of these videos that I don't think I knew what they were until I was in my late 20s, and that is absolutely true. So I had a PhD in enmeshment, and I thought that caretaking was good boundaries, where you just merged with the other person. So the term that we're going to use, the definition for boundaries that we are going to explore today, and we're going to kaleidoscope out from that, is that the simple definition of boundaries is this is okay with me and this is not okay with me. Or you, not just Zoe. That would be hilarious though, if I was promulgating that, Polly. People had to walk around in their life and go, oh, this is what a boundary is. This is what's okay with Zoe and not okay with
I just
Zoe.
have to check, hang on, what's my bracelet say? What did Zoe do?
So what's okay with me and what's not okay with me? And what we find in the room, that for some people they're, oh yeah, I get that, I know that. And some people, like the earlier version of me, would be, huh? Because we'd never considered the question of what is okay with me? What was okay with me was determined by what the other person needed. And that is such a messy space. What's your experience of boundaries personally, Polly? And what do you see predominantly in the rooms that we work in?
It's interesting though, because we were talking about this and we were like, oh, let's do a video on boundaries or a podcast. And I'm like, oh, that'll be a short video.
And I was the exact opposite. That'll be a really long one.
But I feel like I don't think I ever actually thought about what a boundary was. It was just not part of my world, because my world was, is everyone else safe and happy? Oh, if they're all safe and happy, I'm safe and happy. So like you, the boundary was very much like those sand things where you tip them up and all the sand goes down, and it's like, however the sand falls, that's the boundary, because that's what that person tipped it as. So I think it's really been in the I wouldn't say my late 20s, probably in the last few years, that I've really thought about what a healthy boundary is. And I've probably really felt what an unhealthy boundary feels like. And for me, it's like values. So if you listen to our values podcast or video, we're talking about how when you're out of integrity or when you've got some slippery values, you feel in your body. I probably feel boundaries in my body when something isn't right. But it's been a revelation to have the definition. What's okay with me? What's not okay with me?
What does it feel like for you? Because for me, it feels like dread. I get a feeling of dread, which is low in my belly.
Yeah, low in my. I feel nauseous. It's like it's a sense of probably like you lose your stomach. Actually, that's even probably much more accurate. It's like when you go over a bump in a car and you're like, oh yeah. It's that sort of like everything's fallen away, gravity kind of gone, like feeling gross feeling.
Yeah.
And I really I'm trying to even think when I kind of had a moment of going, actually, that's not all right. And that's what a boundary is. But now I think intellectually I'm just like I'm recreating my past. I think I had better boundaries.
That's so interesting. So for me, a real revelation around boundaries was this idea of you can't say a proper yes unless you know how to say a proper no.
Yeah. You taught me that. Miss Boundaries.
They're good boundaries. And that is so fascinating because I personally wanted to be, yes, I want to help you with this. Yes, I want to do that. Yes, I can do that. And I would find myself in pickles where pickle, that's kind of a sweet term, isn't it? No, actually,
Delicious
it's hard
and
and vinegary. But I find myself in a pickle of over committing myself and then needing to let people down.
Yeah.
And it would happen repeatedly in my life where I just didn't have the bandwidth to deliver what I wanted to deliver. But I felt that, so I was delaying the letting them down instead of doing it up front, which is, do you know what? I can't do that. I can't. So for me, boundaries, I have to really strongly put them in place with my children. I have 4 children, and there are a lot of things that go on at the schools, and we're always being asked, and I love to be a part of the community, but we're always being asked to bake things and turn up at stalls and so on. And I so want to be that person, but the truth is if I try and be that person, I'm going to go mad. So we've also got this company and other things. And so learning to say, no, I can't do that. I can do this, and I would love to support like this, but I can't do that, has saved me this world of grief. What about you?
This is so interesting because I was just reflecting, and again, like one of the differences between how we play these things out in our lives. So I think probably because I've been in a relationship for quite a long time. So I haven't been in that world where my boundaries needed to be emotional as much. It's not like I've had to be setting, I've got poor boundaries with looking for love. But, my shocking boundaries are with work. And so unlike you, where I would let people, where I wouldn't do it, I just would do it. And I would just do it. And I'd commit and I'd deliver, because heaven help me if I didn't deliver on what I said I was going to do, which was such a part of who I am. And that just leads to burnout, exhaustion, and such deep resentment. I can't believe how no one works as hard as me. You don't even appreciate it. It's like, it's such a toxic headspace to be in. But that belief that you couldn't say no. And if someone wanted you to do something, well, that was like, you must be okay. It's so childhood and it's so sort of totally primal. And so I think when I started putting boundaries in place was when I started saying, oh, I'd love to do that, but what would you like me to drop off this other list of things I've got to do to be able to help you with that? Or like you, I'd say, I actually just can't do this, but I'd love to donate. Or I'll bake some goods for you, but I can't stand at the store for 8 hours. So it's really interesting. But for me, when I think about boundaries, I think in my intellect, it's like, oh, boundaries are about relationships. So I'm okay with that. But really, I'm clearly not.
Yeah, it's so complicated.
Delusional confessions.
Can I talk about one more personal experience with boundaries? Because
yeah, I got no boundaries with that.
So we were in a work situation, and
when you say we, are you talking about me? I've got a name.
You and I, yeah, Polly McGee, Dr. Polly McGee. Hey, yeah. Cue the dancing, girls and boys. And I was kissed on the mouth. Not by Polly, unfortunately, because I readily accept that.
She's only human.
What was really interesting for me about that process was that I so wanted to be liked and be professional. And it wasn't a super creepy kiss, and it wasn't malicious, and there was no intention. But I still got kissed on the mouth by a man who's not my husband, who's the only person I kiss on the mouth.
It's best described as an okay boomer kiss.
Yeah.
Men in suits in positions of power, I've always had that, whereas we'd put out our hands to have a shake. I talk about this all the time because it's like, having worked in a lot of dude industries, you put your hand out for the shake and you get pulled in for the kiss and you're like, how did that happen again? Anyway, back to you and your okay boomer kiss.
Is that as an actualized feminist, that at 40 years of age, I get kissed on the mouth and I said nothing. And the walk from that kiss to the elevator, and then when I got in the elevator, the shame storm that happened for me, and then that's kind of depressing too, because then I instantly went into, what am I wearing? What was my behavior? Poor me, poor little girl inside. And then the anger arrived. But the anger was predominantly at myself, which was that I hadn't held my boundary. I just hadn't said, no, thank you. Don't kiss me like that. I don't like to be kissed like that, and moved on. And also, please don't think for a second that I'm teaching here. However you, men and women, choose to respond when somebody kisses you or doesn't kiss you is absolutely your decision to make, and it's deeply personal. But I can certainly say I'm sick to shit of being kissed and touched by people that I haven't invited to do so. The laying on of hands where I'm shepherded through doors, and And actually now when we facilitate, Paul, don't we? I don't do a huge amount of hugging. It's really funny because Polly is this beautiful, generous hugger. But my boundary now is I don't feel comfortable doing that. I don't want to do that. It doesn't mean that I don't like you so much and respect you so much, but there's my boundary on that one. Is it okay with me? Is it not okay with me? It's not okay with me.
I think it's really interesting too. And I love that because it allows me to always say, like, I am a hugger. And although it sounds so American when people say, I'm a hugger. But like, I love physical contact with people and I love to kind of bear hug. And I go boots in and I do it with men and with women.
So beautiful. I love it.
But I really remember in the early days of my corporate career when I was working, particularly in agriculture, and it was just men everywhere. In every room I was in, I was the only young woman in senior rooms of people. And I just thought that was what you did. So the dudes would kiss you, and when they met you, these would be people that you had met. You'd go into a meeting, and I'd be shake. I love a good firm handshake. And I found it really sort of confusing. And for men who are like, what are they talking about? We're not talking about like having a deep tongue. It's just that it's just a
which we're absolutely partial to.
Yeah, I'm quite pro that, but not in a corporate context. And so it's a thing where there's this sort of sense that women are sort of the little lady you meet and greet at the door, and it's really odd. And I'm hoping it doesn't happen so much anymore, but we've talked about it actually with women when we've been doing leadership courses with women and when we've been coaching women, and every woman we've spoken to have had this weird experience where it's some form of social nicety to do this, as against you would never do that to dudes. Like if dudes were hugging other dudes, I'd be up for that. But it makes you feel, particularly when you're in a room with other people and they see that, then when the meeting finishes, everyone thinks they can pile in and do it. And it's just, anyway. It was quite a thing actually. And so just in the spirit of Zoe and I just continually disclosing our lives. So when this incident happened, I'm like, oh, that's like, what are you talking about? That's really normal. So it's like, it's totally not. I'm like, oh dude, you haven't worked in the rooms I've worked in. But I was just like, oh no, you just suck that up. Which was the worst thing that you could possibly do as a friend and as a colleague, because that shame storm, it just became a hurricane. So it was a really great learning for both of us.
But you circled back with me beautifully. I mean, this is the thing of doing the work when you're doing the work. You circled back with me where I knew it was a thing and it wasn't okay what had happened to me. And Polly circled back and just went, actually, let me, and actually this goes back to that empathy that we were talking about the other day. It's okay to muck up empathy, and we do it all the time, because you can circle back and have another go. And it's another reason that I love you so much, Polly. The next day you circled back to me and just went, actually, what was that for you? And what do you need to happen now? And actually all I needed to happen, I processed it, was an acknowledgement that it had happened and that it upset me, and that if it were to happen again in the situation, I was going to say something, because I'd already processed, do I speak to him or not directly? That was my personal take on it.
And it's not okay for you. What's not okay for you? This is okay for me. This is not okay. And it's so good when it's really clear, because it also means that everyone else can work out what their role is.
Yeah.
So it's like, if it's not okay for you, and I'm in this brand and I'm in this story and I'm in this relationship, well, then it's not okay for me. So we're going to work it together. You're not alone. And that's the empathy piece, isn't it? It's like,
it really is.
You're not alone. I'm in this with you, and whatever you need is really important for me. So I think
I just don't need to taste 60-year-old dudes.
Come on now. No, you've just taken that way too far. Way too far.
Well, I'm sure there are some, but not that. Not in a work capacity is all I'm saying. Not uninvited.
A boundary though, it's the display of it as well, where I wanted to just make the point that one of the things that we do talk about quite a bit is that assumption that people know they're doing the wrong thing. And when boundaries are unspoken, you've got to extend that generosity, don't you, Zoe, where it's like, I can't assume you know that I don't want this. And I can either at the time or the next day circle back quietly and say, oh, hey buddy, this happened. I just wanted you to know what that felt like. So in a professional sense, I'd rather this happened. Clearly stating what I need, what you need. It's about me. It's not about you. And I think that, and then quite often the experience for people is, oh, I had no idea that's how you felt. I've just always operated this way.
Totally. But I have to say that I kind of disagree on that one, because I think when someone is kissing somebody on the mouth in a work context, so say, for example, my story, that he made his stuff mine. So it wasn't about me. It was about what he did. He did something to me in the space that was inappropriate and not okay. And I didn't call it out because of conditioning and other stuff that was going on with me. But so the conversation for me would not have been, it made me feel, because that's not right. It would have been, don't kiss me again like that. That's not okay.
My
with me.
point is that if they don't know that that's the reaction and the response and the feeling you're having, then, and they've never been told that that's something that's not appropriate for anyone, you don't know until someone's given you that moment. And, you know, I think the extension of generosity is to assume that everyone is doing the best they can. I mean, that's certainly my default position. And so it's not about absolving, it's about acknowledging this is how I felt. And I would still keep it in, this is how that made me feel, because I want you to know how I felt. And that, so for me, that's not okay.
Mm-hmm. Oh, look, I think you're absolutely right around staying solid with this idea that everyone is doing the best that they can, and then it's deeply personal what makes you feel comfortable and uncomfortable, and then you pursue that as clearly as you can. And it is really interesting though, if you allow and we see this in rooms where we work, if you allow your boundaries to be trampled, it's a really interesting experience what rises up there, the shame that can rise up, the blame that can rise up. That's another classic one we see in the room, where you start blaming. So that's the offloading the hurt. I don't want to hold this, so I'm going to put it over there. But I also think it's a great thing that you bring up around assumption. You know, we always as a species make assumptions about the other person's point of view, and the deep respect of just asking, engaging, you know, the confabulation, a lie honestly told. What is it to say, what's happening here for you? I think that's radical.
I had a really interesting conversation the other day actually around this stuff, and we were talking about how, well, everyone's been working from home, and it's really, really great, and we were both spaffing off about this idea that productivity is linked to visibility. And my friend was saying how she had worked in advertising for many years, and in one of her early experiences, she'd been in a team where she was the boss of another couple of people, and the boss came out to her at about 6:30 at night and looked around and said, well, where is everyone? And she's like, well, they've gone home. And the boss said to her, well, I just don't think people are really putting in if they're not here past 6:30. And she just sort of went, now I would have just turned around and said, no way, that is just totally not on, because they've all got lives and we've all been here since 7. But that idea that everyone keeps extending their hours because they don't want to look like they're the one that goes home first. I think that's such a potent part of some industries and some work cultures and some management styles, but the boundary has to be, this is not okay for me because I want to be at home with my kids or with the dogs or having a life. And rather we just get stretched and stretched and stretched, and then we're just silent and resentful or sick.
Or sick, absolutely. So boundaries, what's okay with me, what's not okay with me, and expressing that, not making an assumption about the other, coming from a place of assuming generosity that everyone is doing the best that they can, but that doesn't mean that you allow them to trample your boundaries. In a workspace, I think it's really what we see consistently, don't we, Polly, is people that let their boundaries be compromised. They get whittled down and dispirited.
So
huh?
What's okay with me and what's not okay with me?
Yeah.
We've finished.
Yay! All right, dear ones, go forth and practice your boundaries.
That was beautiful. I think that's a really perfect sort of end. It's like, what's okay with me? What's not okay with me? Final piece is you can have some time in between when things happen. You don't have to respond straight away. You can circle back in a day, in a week, as long as you're doing it in a way that clearly identifies what happened, why it's not okay, and what is the right thing for you to do. Your boundaries are so strong now. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you, darling, and yours too. So to come and find us, oh ye people out there in the wilderness, at pilotlight.co.
Test our boundaries.
Test our boundaries. If you've got any questions, if you've got anything to say, preferably if it's nice, just remember we're doing the best we can too.
Most of the time.
Yeah, that's true. All right, sweet ones, we will see you next time in our next conversation. We hope you come back to find us. Au revoir. That's French for goodbyes.